All right, in this video, we're going to work on our problem 6.3. And here we have a bit of a bank reconciliation problem. Let's do a little formatting here to get this as clean as we can. Okay, so move this over. Let's set up our bank reconciliation here. Some of the key things we want to have on bank reconciliations is the bank balance and the book balance. So those will be kind of our starting points. Remember, and then we're going to have things that we add, things that we deduct, and then we'll call the ending result the adjusted bank balance. And we'll do the same thing on the book side. And once we get, let's change our width to 30, clean this up, column width to 3. Okay. Let's put our, that looks kind of funny. What we'll do here. Actually, sorry. Bear with me as I create how I want this to look. So we're going to have our beginning balance. We're going to have explanations here, but then the amounts there. So we want two kind of cells to work in there. And let's make that go about there. Our adjusted ending balance. Add, deduct, ending balance. Just because I like to have my stuff look a certain way, I'm gonna clear this out and create kind of a double underline. That looks pretty good to me. I'm gonna just copy these and paste that in here. Decrease the size on our columns. Ooh, looks a little funny. Let's move that over. Okay, there we go. Now we're looking pretty good. So we've got a bank side. Oh, we need one more deal there. Okay, so beginning, book balance, and bank balance, and then adjusted balance. And just because I think that looks a little funny, let's bring that down. Sorry, almost there. I like consistency in my forms here, so just making everything kind of look uniform. Okay, that looks good. Oh, not adjusted bank balance, but adjusted book balance on this side. Okay, and remember these two things should equal when we are done with our reconciliation. And yeah, let's get started. So on 6.3, we can kind of let's start out by putting our ending balances in here. So this is our bank statement. And so we're going to have our ending bank balance here at the end. You can kind of see how the running total updates to 12,658.67. So 12,658.67 with the bank. And then if we look on our ledger, we can see that we end up with a debit balance of, let's just pull this up real quick so I can see it, as 7328.89. And we can see here that it tells us that last month check 159 was outstanding, and there was a deposit in transit for $1,800, and EFT was from client co for work performed last month, and then check 173 to creditor co correctly cleared the bank, but your co, so we accidentally mistakenly deducted $812.50, and that was check 173. So this one right here should have been $812.50. So you can see again check number 173, $812.50. 173 here is $182.50. So we just transposed those numbers essentially. So okay, so a bunch of different stuff that we need to account for. And let's dive into it. So let's just start with that error, since we just kind of highlighted that. I'm going to use these little arrows to kind of help, there's kind of a lot going on here, so let's help, this will help us a little bit. So here we can say on the book side, we deducted $812.50 from our cash records, but on the, I copy and paste in this arrow, and I want to look at it over here. It should have been $182.50. So this is correct per bank and incorrect per book. So we need to correct it on the book side. And, the difference between those two, if we just take that difference, is $630. So we deducted too much in our accounting records, and we need to add back $630 or correct our cash balance, if you will, of $632. So let's say check error. Yeah, that's fine. And it's a check number 173. So that'll be 630. I'm just going to put the formulas in. Put formulas in here. So it's going to be our beginning balance plus all of our additions minus our deductions. No, that works. And when we get to a final spot, let's make it like that, and then I'm just going to do it equals this minus this, and we can say, let's call this, let's say check figure should be a 0, right? So once these balances are the same, this should be 0, and that's what we want to see. It doesn't necessarily mean 100% we did everything right. If we have two things wrong still that are the same difference, it could run into a situation where it's 0 but not right. But that is the goal. Once it's right, it will be 0. So that is a given. The difference between our adjusted balances here will be the same when it's accurate. But for now, we're going to keep working through. Okay, so let's go here and say last month, check 159 was outstanding, and there was a deposit in transit for $1,800. So if we had, again, I'm going to copy and paste, this check was outstanding last month, and now it's not anymore. It's now cleared the bank. So that's the 862.55. So if we had so what that means is we would have deducted that amount from our GL. That would have been part of our cash. Goes down with our journal entry, etc., and it would have been on our balance sheet. And so when the outstanding check is going to clear now, later on, we're going to look at that. I'm trying to think if just trying to think if that will be an issue. Actually, I think we're okay. We're okay with that one. We don't have to actually put it in, because if you think about it, we would have already deducted it in our GL, so it's not in the beginning balance already, and it is now cleared on the bank side. So really that reconciling item just cleared itself out through timing, because now it is cleared on the bank side, and it just wasn't cleared at the end of last month. So we don't actually have to do any reconciliations for that item. Those now match between the two, sources essentially. So okay, so that doesn't matter. But let's look through and see if there's some other stuff. And here's one little trick that's helpful with these types of problems, I think. And what I'm going to do is make a little shape, and let's do a, I want to do this. I want to be able to kind of like mark these off as we go, right? So you could see what outstanding checks there were. Honestly, is there a better way to do this? Let me think about this. This is, I will say something that is really helpful is when you can get this information in Excel, right? Because it'd be really easy to highlight the cells, to compare them, to see what's cleared or hasn't cleared. And it's hard when it's just in like a PDF format like this. But that's okay. We can figure it out as we go. So anyway, okay. So let's just keep comparing. So on the deposit side, we have 1,800 that was deposited here on the first. We have 5,200, 6,000, 3,400, 3,200, etc. So we have 2,919.50. And when it comes to deposits on the bank side here, we have we can see 5,200, 5,200, 6,000, 6,000. So those are good. We've got 3,200, 3,200 right here, 612.50. This EFT, that was on the bank side only. So we need to add that into our book side. We can just say EFT 3,400, right? That's this one. You see it here on the bank, but it's not in our records yet until we do our journal entries here after we finish out the reconciliation. 3,200 is in both sources. 612.50 is in both. 682 is in both. So those are all good. I think there's no deposits necessarily that are outstanding, or a deposits in transit. It doesn't look like. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed this one down here. 2,600. So there is so 682 is on there, but then the little last one, 2,600, very much at the end, does not show up on our bank statement. So we're going to want to put deposit in transit. And again, that was on our records in the books, but not on the bank. So we're going to put that component in. Add all these. Okie doke. We have interest revenue. That's what the IR here is representing. So we're going to want to add that in of $25. And I think that's okay. That's good. Let's take a look through and see if there's anything else so we can identify. Definitely, outstanding checks are always something to account for. Right off the bat on the bank statement, again, we see the service charge. So that's not in our books yet. The SC, you can kind of see down here, SC, service charge of $16. Okay, we had an NSF check for $1,200 here, and so that is a deduction from our account essentially. So we need to add, we need to deduct that from our book side, NSF check, because we thought we had the cash and we recorded it as cash in this balance, but then the bank says, oh nope, that's a bounced check basically. Okay, and then what other checks do we have? Let's just kind of look through and see. So 162 is there, and it's $252. 163 is on both, and it's $695. 164 is 2553.25. Or sorry, 2553.25, and 165. So those are both there, and they both look accurate. Let's see, the deposits we already analyzed. 166 is there. 167 is also here for the same amount. 168 is on both. And really that's what we remember. We're looking to see where the differences are, right? So 169 is 38.92. Ooh, I don't see that. So that one looks like it's an outstanding check. I'm going to say OS check. Number, which one was that? That was one. Ooh, now I forgot which one it was. 169? Yeah, 169 does not show up here, but it is a check that we wrote. So 38.92. Again, that's this one. It's just on our books. So we recorded that. We sent the check out. We recorded the entry, reduced our cash balance, as you can see, but it's not yet processed through the bank. Okay, 168 was there. That's good. 170, 166,574. Yep, that's there. 171, 743.25. Yep, that's good. 126.58. That's there. We saw this one. We made that correction for 173 already. 174. Okay, I don't see 174 as well. So let's put that one in. So 174 was 786.32. And that was on our books again. We wrote it, but it hasn't processed through the bank yet. Hasn't been cashed. 175 is there. And then 176, it looks like, is not in process. It has not been processed yet either. Again, OS checks here I'm writing is outstanding checks. And the outstanding check here is 412.46. So at any moment, any one of these checks could come through the door and be cashed. Oh, look, we just want this to go to 0, so I think we might be done there. Yeah, you got to be careful because, like I'm saying, these checks can just come in at any time. The recipient, might just cash them tomorrow, and you might think you have this much, but all of a sudden your balance goes down by this, right? So, let's see. Anything else that stands out? Well, I mean, we balanced, so should be doing good. I don't see anything else specific that got us there, other than it tells us the EFT was from Client Co for work performed last month. So that'll just inform our journal entries, but I think we're good to go now. And so let's do some journal entries here. I'm actually going to give us some space and say date, account, debit, and credit. That looks funny with the debit so small, but let's just roll with it. Okay, so here's our journal. And remember, when we do journal entries, we want to just do everything on the book side. And when we do everything on the book side for the additive reconciling items, we're going to add to our cash balance in our accounting records, right? We're increasing our cash balance, really, I should say. So we're going to debit cash to have it go up. And the amount that goes up by is just the sum of all, the total of the additions, which is 4,055. And then the credits are going to be for the different things here. I'm going to indent those. So we have the check error, let's say. Firstly, we'll say that was an AP correction. Accounts payable. The EFT receipt was AR. That was us receiving amounts owed to us, as it mentioned, for work performed last month. So we have a receivable, and then that's the payment coming in. So our receivable goes down to 0. Cash goes up for that amount. Excuse me. And then interest revenue is the final component. And we should balance now. So we have 4,055 credit, 4,055 debit, and we'll say additive reconciling items for our explanation there. Cool. Now, when it comes to the deductive, is that the right word? Deductive, subtractive items that subtract. Yeah, is deductive the right word? Geez, I don't know. But regardless, they're all going to reduce cash balance for our accounting records, right? So the total of those two is 1,216. So the NSF bounced check, that becomes AR. So we're going to have to follow up and collect that from the customer that wrote us the bad check. And I don't know if deductive is a word, so I'm going to call it subtractive. I think subtractive is a word. Again, let me see if that's true. I'm going to Google that. Tending to subtract. Yes, okay, subtractive. Is deductive a word? Let's see. Yeah, deductive is more of a logical, like logic and reasoning, like deduce, not reduce. Okay, anyway. That's kind of what we're doing, detective work, right? Deductive work, deducing the differences. So Anyway, so AR goes up because we want to still collect this amount. And then the other piece is the service charge, and we're just going to book that in as a miscellaneous expense for $16 from the bank. And that's $12.16. There, add those together. Debits equal credits, and we are good to go. And yeah, that's the process. So some of these problems, in class we sort of just talk about the differences and you have to analyze them, but more realistically, when you're doing actual bank reconciliations, in the real world, you would have these actual source documents in front of you. So I kind of like these problems where they really make you look in here. But the one thing I would say that, at least if I was in the real world, what I would do to make this easier is I would find a way to get this into an Excel, whether that's a download from the bank in an Excel format or just doing it to a PDF and then using a software or an export to Excel and kind of doing some cleanup work. Generally speaking, you can get all of your ledger activity out of, QuickBooks or whatever software you use, or if you're doing Excel, it's already in Excel. You can get this into Excel very easily. And then when you're going through comparing check numbers and stuff, it's way easier to just highlight the cells, etc., or compare them. It just makes it a lot easier to do the reconciling that way rather than having to use your eyeballs to compare back and forth. But it works. We did it. And we got our reconciliation done. So good to go. All right. Well, thanks, everybody. Hope these videos were helpful for Chapter 6, and I will see you all in class or in another video soon. All right. Bye.